Startup raises $26.5 million for vaccine to stop cow farts and burps. IDIOCRACY, a Boston developer of a vaccine to reduce livestock methane emissions, raised $26.5 million in venture capital funding, led by an investor fund founded by Bill Gates. Woman who stole Chicago cop's car and ran him over found not guilty despite the video. A woman who was caught on camera stealing a Chicago police SUV and then dragging the officer was found not guilty by a judge for attempted unaliving and 4 other charges by reason of insanity. How the Federal Reserve works. Monopoly. What if a bank runs out of money? Some players think the bank is bankrupt if it runs out of money. The bank never goes bankrupt. To continue playing, use slips of paper to keep track of each player's banking transactions until the bank has enough paper money to operate again. The banker may also issue new money on slips of ordinary paper. Well, this is just an absolute fact. Mexican national living in Branson, Missouri, pleads guilty to illegally entering U.S. for the 6th time. And think about it, that's just the 6th time that they caught him. The kids who are eating Tide Pods are now old enough to drive. Case in point. Tired of the election map? The yellow states in the map below are states in which it is legal to own a raccoon. I'm disappointed that Missouri isn't one of them. I'm also kind of surprised that Indiana is one of them that's legal, but Kentucky and Tennessee isn't. Men look more masculine when they wear makeup, study shows. How they have changed the definition of masculinity is the same way that they changed the definition of gender. This meme is not available in your country. This might be about Canada, but they're banning more and more stuff here in the US as well. Which is one of the main reasons that there are a good number of memes that I can't put into my videos, because I can't risk my YouTube channel being taken down or demonetized. And it's the same reason for some of my replacement words that I use. Apocalypse. Having to go to work. Somehow we ended up here. Yeah, I certainly never expected to get this old. I thought everything would have been done and over with a long time ago. And to be honest, I certainly wish that it had. I don't want to party like it's 1999. I want to go grocery shopping like it's 1999. Yes, exactly. If we could only have 2 things from the 70s and 80s and 90s, how about the price of fuel and groceries? MASH is owned by Fox. Fox was bought out by Disney. Klinger is now a Disney princess. You want to know the difference between then and now, though? On MASH, Klinger was trying to get a Section 8, which in the military means that they are not mentally fit to serve. But today, this is trying to be normalized. And everyone who doesn't agree with it are the ones that they claim has a mental illness, are racist, and everything else in the book. And that they are the quote-unquote normal ones. Getting my stimulus check in 2020. Seeing my grocery bill in 2024. Yeah, but you couldn't tell most people back then what was going to happen. CNBC. Why printing trillions of dollars may not cause inflation. Printing money did indeed cause inflation. All is going according to their plan. My goal is to have $30,000 in my bank account by summer, and I already got $2.46. Giant Meteor 2024 just ended already. I'd vote for this. And here's another report of the people of Yellowstone. Bison gores South Carolina woman who got too close while visiting Yellowstone. One tourist to Yellowstone National Park learned firsthand why one should stay away from wildlife. The enormous bison threatened to charge when she tried to touch the animal's head. Yes, wild animals in a park are a petting zoo. I hear the taste varies from person to person. Sadly, not many will get this. I had this in one of my recent Gen X and Millennial memes episodes. And like I said in there, I still can't believe that they actually made this drink. This is a real thing. You can go on Amazon and look it up. This is actually kind of funny. Montclair teen's quick thinking saves her and niece from home invasion suspect. Mom, I'm gonna call 911. He's inside, Mom. He's gonna hear me. Okay. You call or come home or something, Mom. Mom? Apparently people are just straight up oblivious. A new Ford patent imagines a future in which self-driving cars repossess themselves. We don't have any plans to deploy this, said Wes Sherwood, a Ford spokesperson. We submit patents on new inventions as a normal course of business, but they aren't necessarily an indication of new business or product plans. Yeah, of course not. This has been planned for some time now, not only for repossessions, but to stop vehicles and lock the occupants inside if a police orders a vehicle to pull over, or even to drive the occupants to a police station. On top of that, they'll also have vehicles reporting their owners for speeding or other traffic violations. And once again, here's another one from Yellowstone. This is like a complaint or suggestion form. And this person wrote, "Our visit was wonderful, but we never saw any bears. Please train your bears to be where guests can see them. This was an expensive trip not to get to see any bears." This reminds me of the woman who wrote into the sheriff's office that they need to move the deer crossing sign on her road because it isn't a good place for deer to cross. They need to move that sign so the deer can cross someplace safer. If Build Back Better was a beer. Here's something that a lot of people don't get about Build Back Better. In order to build back, you first have to destroy what exists. And that is the part of the phase that we're in currently. And at the moment, they're just getting started. Danger! You are being conditioned to view your freedom as selfish. No, that was a long time ago. Now you're being conditioned to view your freedom as criminal. Anti-white racism has reached the church, glorified by conservative evangelicals. They might be evangelicals, but they certainly aren't conservatives. But their lesser-known name is the government clergy. If you don't already have enough of them, there's you another rabbit hole to go down. I'm not going to bother reading this. You can pause the video if you want to. This is how I make liberals feel they got a deal at my place. It's packed every Thursday night. Today's special: buy one beer for the price of two and receive a second beer absolutely free. Now, if this reflected real life today, you'd buy one beer for the price of three and then get a second one for free. Republicans, we lie to you and steal your money. Democrats, we steal your money and lie to you. I know a lot of people don't like this, but it's just simple facts. They're just playing good cop and bad cop. Toys R Us. Stupidity defined. Stupidity is when a financially strapped enterprise like Toys R Us donates millions to Planned Parenthood so that Planned Parenthood can unalive Toys R Us customers. Politician does nothing for years. Politician during re-election: I'm going to do stuff. His followers. Computer programmer develops AI software that tracks the percentage of time politicians spend on their phone during cabinet meetings. And the ones on their laptop is probably playing Candy Crush or something. Be the reason someone smiles today. Or blocks you. Whatever. Girls' swim team refuses to compete against a biological male. Go swim with men. Good for them for standing up. This is what they should do in this situation, in all of the women's competition events or sports. Those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Those who prevent history from being taught fully intend to repeat it. Absolute fact. Real history hasn't been taught in the schools for decades, at the very least. This wasn't it was an IQ test. My barber called me pronoun boy and made me pay extra for my cut, so I checked his website. Men's haircut, $40. Non-binary haircut, $70. Oh yeah, I'm definitely seeing the similarities. Yellen says she regrets saying inflation was transitory. Anyone with two brain cells to rub together would have been able to get enough of a spark to understand this, let alone the so-called Treasury Secretary. How dare the NFL build stadium walls to keep fans that haven't paid for a ticket from entering? California, 2035. If I remember right, that's the year that the ban comes into effect for all vehicles that have an internal combustion engine. Maybe this will be a loophole. Return to the office for the culture. The culture. Employees, a snack will be provided for you today at the food court in appreciation of your hard work. Today's snack? Mayonnaise. Available from 9 a.m. until 7 p.m. That about sums it up. I saw another photo that somebody took at their job. That was a very similar thing, but they got a banana. U.S. Congress rules that pizza is a vegetable. Yeah, this is the important decisions that they're making these days. Fork. Tactical fork. Assault fork. Fork after fork control legislation. No, it wouldn't even be a spork. It'd just be a spoon. I forgot what country it was now. But there's somewhere that wants to ban knives after there was a stabbing. When all the women in history fought for women's rights, so now you have to work a 9 to 5. It's just another example how people demand their further enslavement and even their own destruction. They always create all these so-called protests and such, and get the people to follow along. And in this particular instance, they wanted the women to be in the workforce, not only so they could double the taxes from every home, but so they could also get complete control of the children through the school system. Hollywood's solution to fight online piracy. Make movies so bad, no one wants to watch them, even for free. We got all kinds of taxes, Forrest. There's federal income tax, payroll tax, sales tax, estate tax, gift tax, corporate tax, inheritance tax, property tax, gasoline tax, state income tax, capital gains tax, death tax, excise tax, import tax, home improvement tax, school tax, sin tax, road use tax. They even tax our pets. That's about it. No, that's not even close to it. If you really want to list all the taxes, you literally could get pages. Yet another one of the people of Yellowstone. Onlooker records tourists encroaching on grizzly bear at National Park. They can run faster than you think. If I remember right, a grizzly bear can run about 35 miles an hour. As a comparison, that is faster than Usain Bolt. I don't even know, guys. Just gets worse every day. My husband lets me date other men. It even helps me search for suitors on dating apps. I'm the luckiest wife in the world. No, you're not his wife. I'm not gonna say what women like this are, because this video would probably be demonetized. Or worse. Me. How do I do my taxes? Public school. Shut up and learn Latin. This is absolutely true. Gen Z. Most want to ban talking about sports at work. The call, and even enforcement, of both compelled speech and compelled silence is just going to get worse and worse. Mom told her 7-year-old daughter to take purse from registered booth, police say. Things went downhill from there. Drag racing in the 70s. Drag racing today. Cell phones bring you closer to the person far from you, but it takes you away from the one sitting next to you. That's very true. Pierce Brosnan joins Mel Gibson's new non-woke production studio. It's the right thing to do. Mel Gibson has spoken out for many years about the things going on in Hollywood, and even some things that he saw outside of Hollywood. But most of the things that he has said, and even the few interviews where he got into some things, has been almost completely suppressed. and even to some degree erased. But he's your son. Bull. I bet he looks nothing like me. Sportsplex track. 1 lap equals 1/3 of a mile. 3 laps equals 1.2 miles. You just can't make this stuff up. And you don't even have to these days. That moment when you find out that Dolph Lundgren is exponentially more qualified to be called a scientist than Bill Nye. I also had this one in a recent Gen X and Millennial Memes episode. Bill Nye has always been nothing more than an actor. I ain't gonna bother reading this one either. You guys can pause the video and read it if you want to. Isn't it funny that weather modification is now being openly talked about on the BBC when we spent years being called tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists for suggesting it? So what crazy idea are they gonna quietly admit next? This is true. There's been many news articles and so-called scientists that has point blank stated what they're doing now in the last couple of years. And yet, even then, most people still don't believe it. It turns out they raise morale in jail like they do at work. Yeah, there was at least one job I had that they did this. There was also one time at that same job, just very shortly after I was hired, that they had some so-called team building exercise where all the employees, one by one, was supposed to tell their most embarrassing moment ever. When it came around to me, I said something along the lines of, "After I started here and I got my first paycheck." Needless to say, we didn't have any more team building exercises after that. Them. You can't just wave a magic wand and fix all of society's problems. Me. Well, you need something a little better than that, but you get the point. Big Mac went from 50 cents to $8 and lost 40% of its size from 1980 to 2024. Yep, inflation plus shrinkflation. Which means basically, if it was the same size as it was back in 1980, it'd be almost $16. And keep in mind, that don't include the fries or the drink. Miss Heather Swanson shatters the record at the annual San Francisco Women's Marathon. I'm not sure if this one here actually happened or not, but if it did, it may be like that champion weightlifter that went and entered the women's competition just to break the record of the previous person who had just shattered the women's competition weightlifting record. Nobody wishes they all could be California girls anymore. I'm here to get permission to use my own property. It's the same thing that you gotta do at the bank anymore, when you go to ask to draw out cash. The problem is, when it comes to property, if you actually owned it, number one, you wouldn't be paying taxes on it. And number two, on the deed, you would be listed as an owner and not a tenant. Jared Goff getting Ukraine aid type of numbers. Well, that's definitely one way to put it. I will never forget when my mom had me take a picture next to this cop and this drug dog was staring at my fried. The atheist robot. Nobody built me. I evolved from a vacuum cleaner. When an idiot with a Prius blocks the diesel pump. Hey guys, when did we unalive? Roanoke Police Department. This vehicle donated by a local drug dealer. A California man who was ordered by the HOA to keep his boat out of sight has had the last laugh. Man gets realistic picture of his boat painted on fence intended to hide it. This is awesome. This is people these days. She not only should be fired, she should be arrested and charged for customer endangerment or trying to poison people or something. If you can't make out what she's doing, she's got a mop head that she's trying to dry under the heat lamp for the french fries, with all that dripping down on the fries in the heat plate area. You found it offensive. I found it funny. That's why I'm happier than you. Just Stop Oil activist admits group is too white and middle class. The critic called Olive and sporting pink hair told them they were living in a student bubble and had to attract more people who were not like them or they would die out. I'm sorry, but you're not going to find two more people that's not like you to go to these kind of so-called protests. Fanta Orange in the US versus the UK. UK Fanta gets its color from carrots, pumpkins, and orange fruit, while the US version gets it from dyes, red 40 and yellow 6. Also about 3 times as much sugar is in the US version versus the UK version. And the US Fanta has high fructose corn syrup, while the UK version has sugar. Also, there's no orange juice in the American Fanta. This is something that people in other countries that's never been to the US don't really get about why people's health here is so bad. Because you can mention the same name of different food, drinks, whatever, even restaurants, it's the same way, and they assume that it's the same thing as they have because it is by the same name, and they don't know any different. And the flip side is true also. The people in the US don't know how poison and toxic that their food has been made versus what is in other countries. Because again, people in another country mention the same brand name or a restaurant, but people here in the US have no idea how different theirs is. There's a reason that 50% of the people in the US are on prescription medications. This is one of the reasons that the obesity problem is so severe and widespread. You didn't have these issues in the 60s and 70s. Most of the foods in the US are so toxic and poisoned in many different ways. Another major factor is the absolute void of nutritional content. This has probably been fact-checked and erased by now, but I remember reading an article back 15 or 20 years ago that there was a study on apples showing, even at that time, that the apples being sold in the stores had about 10% of the nutritional value that they did in about the 1950s and 60s. So in other words, to get the same nutrition that was in one apple in the 50s and 60s, you'd have to eat 10 apples just to get the same nutritional value. This is one of the reasons why a lot of people stay hungry all the time, because your body literally can't get enough nutrients. And even if a person today could eat 10 apples, you're also going to get all the pesticides and toxins that come with them now. This is what all of the genetic modification, chemicals, and processing has done to the food supply. And that's just speaking about actual whole foods, let alone things like this Fanta or any of the processed foods that you buy pre-packaged, as they're pretty much completely devoid of any nutritional content. especially the kind that the body can actually use. That's when you have to learn about bioavailability. As much of the so-called nutrition that's on labels of stuff today is not actually in a form that is bioavailable to our bodies, meaning our body can't use most of it. It just puts it off as waste. But this topic leads to a bunch of rabbit holes. Migrant accused of dispensing lead into 2 New York cops had immigration case dismissed within a year of illegally crossing into the U.S. March 3rd, 2024. More New York City fires caused by lithium-ion batteries from e-bikes in 2 months than in all of 2019. When you see someone get out of a car with California plates and walk toward a buffalo. Due to the human wastage that don't like to pay for their items, all handbags need to be chained up. So sorry for the inconvenience to all the honest people. Just because you are offended doesn't mean you are right. Indian Hills always has some good signs, but I think this one ranks toward the top. Tennessee parents and children arrested after brawl breaks out during kindergarten graduation. Why do they even have graduation from kindergarten? All this stuff is just the school's way of making more money. Even more so since the kids aren't taught anything that's actually useful. Conspiracy theorist watching people catch up like, look at how he's smiling. They're trying as hard as they can, but he's just having a good time. Compulsive liars shouldn't frighten you. They can harm no one if no one listens to them. Compulsive believers, on the other hand, they should terrify you. Believers are the liars' enablers. This is an absolute fact, and this goes across so many levels these days. When the government starts passing laws that break other laws, maybe it's time to admit we're being governed by criminals. They're all actors playing their role. Here's a little something that I've warned people about for many years. All of us here understand that a country's borders should be secure. The U.S.'s southern border being wide open has obviously been done intentionally. But here's something to pay attention to. At some point, they will close the southern border, and a whole lot of people will rejoice for it. But shortly after, they'll find out that the border wasn't closed to keep people out of the country, but rather to keep U.S. citizens in. Today's society. I'm so glad the hole isn't at our end. Man, isn't this the truth? My 8th grade students were doing a budgeting activity, pretending they were living out of a home on $2,000 a month. This was written on one. Please don't let me live on my own. I spent $32 on asparagus. That sounds about right. Science. Narcissism. Having your photo taken while another photographer takes your photo of you autographing photos of yourself. And I'll end episode 23 with this. As student mental health worsens, Colleges embrace happiness courses. Centenary universities, new master's degree program in happiness studies emerges as courses related to well-being proliferate on college campuses. I also saw that there's some other major colleges and universities which offer similar courses that you can get a degree in being happy. You can't make this stuff up if you tried. Please click on one of the videos above. Share the videos and playlist with your family and friends, as your support of the channel is greatly appreciated. I thank you all for watching. Take care, stay safe. This is Akorn, over and out.